Hey everybody, welcome to Board Online, Board Offline. Today we're going to bring you a full gameplay of a fight with a really seriously badass individual, the Butcher. Not any Butcher, this is the level 3 Butcher, a nemesis that I have not fought before. I fought level 1 many times, I fought level 2 once, which was several Lantern years ago. But I had a feeling I was going to make it to level 3, and so I held off recording the Butcher during this campaign until I got to the level 3. And here he is. I am bringing some of my best fighters up against him, some of my best survivors up against him. I think I have a shot at actually beating him with their loadout. It is a pretty big risk because some of their weapons, if they die, their weapons, I don't get to keep them. They are irreplaceable, and those obviously are some of my best weapons, and so considering the fights that are coming up, that's a real big risk. So we're going to get down to the table. I'm going to show you what we've got going on here. I'm going to show you their loadouts. I'm going to show you what the Butcher's got going on, and so this video will just be kind of the setup, and in the next video we'll do the actual fight. I do want to mention our sponsor, Board Game Co. This is a great website where you can buy, sell, and trade games. They have a great value system over there that shows you exactly what you're going to get for your games, exactly what you can trade over there for, what you can trade this game for to get other games, or what you can sell the game to them for. If you are looking to trade, or really, I think even if you're looking to sell, but for sure if you're looking to trade, they will link directly into your Board Game Geek account. They will see what you have on your trade list. They'll see what you have on your want in trade list, and they'll make matches for you right there, just based off of those two lists. They'll create a customized list just for you on their website. So be sure to check out Board Game Co. There's a link in the description below so they know that I sent you over there. Board Game Co. is a great place to buy, sell, and trade your way into a better collection. Okay, so without anything else, let's get right down the table. I'm going to show you what's going on before we fight the Butcher level 3 of Kingdom Death Monster. All right, here we go. We are facing the level 3 Butcher. This is going to be an absolutely intense fight. I honestly am not sure throwing my 4 of my best people at this guy is the right idea. I have a number of weapons that are irreplaceable, meaning that if the owner of that weapon dies, then the weapon is gone. So this could be a big mistake. A lot's riding on this. Really, I think how I do in this fight is going to be a good indicator of what's to come, because I've got the Watcher coming up, I've got the Gold Smoke Knight coming up, and I don't think I fought Slenderman level 3 yet either, so that's coming up as well. So we're gonna have to, this really could be kind of a benchmark fight to give me an idea of what is to come. All right, so let's go through what's on the board here. So obviously we got the Butcher here in the center of the table. We'll go through his stats here in a second. I've got 4 acanthus plants here, here, and then there's one down in the corner over there as well. Acanthus plants. Let's see. Acanthus plants, if you're not familiar, will, if I roll a d10 when I'm next to them, and if I have a sickle, then I can roll 2d10. None of my guys have sickles because I cleared those out of my gear grids to make room for other stuff for this fight. And basically, I want to get an 8+. It'll give me a fresh Acanthus Strange resource, which will help me heal up during the fight. However, on a 5 through 7, gain 1 survival, 3 through 4 nothing. 1 through 2 I actually end up getting some arm damage because something inside the acanthus plant bites me. Also back here behind the Butcher we have a bug patch. Keep hitting his sword. Okay, so bug patch. Again, roll a d10. If you're carrying a scavenger kit, nobody is, so that doesn't matter. We want a 4+, so not so terrible, and I get a random vermin resource, potentially useful during the fight. Depends on which vermin I get. Obviously, this stuff below that is a little bit less good, but I mean, right here, 3, I still get a random basic resource. 2, nothing happens, and then 1, I get 3 brain damage. Then there's this stone column up here, and there's 2 more, one right here just off the screen, and then 1 down here as well. And those basically are just going to be kind of obstacles in the way. If I get thrown into them, they're going to cause some damage. But if I get thrown into them, then they'll also be destroyed. They won't be there anymore. They don't affect the butcher at all. He can walk right through them. If he does walk through them, they get destroyed as well. All right, so this is Ventress Erroneous. All right, so we are going to, let me pull up her gear grid real quick. All right, so first off, Ventress has 14 survival. That is my survival limit. So she's maxed out on survival right now. 7 insanity. And then she's got 7 armor across the board. And I'll show you how that came about in a second. And then her attributes, she's got 3 accuracy, 3 strength, 4 evasion, 2 of which is coming from her gear grid here. And then 0 luck, 0 speed. All right, so fighting arts, she has leader. So here's leader. Whenever you encourage a survivor, they gain +1 speed token until the end of the round. So the fact that she's maxed out on survival means I'll probably use a lot of her survival to encourage. Granted, speed's not always a good thing, but in conjunction with the cat eye circlet that I have, it could be, especially with how difficult it's going to be to wound the butcher. The second part only happens during the hunt phase, and since we're fighting a nemesis, there is no hunt phase, so that doesn't matter. She's got tough. When rolling on the severe injury table, unless you roll a 1, add +1 to the result. This does not include brain trauma. All right. And she has Phantom Friend. The first time you gain a resource during your showdown, you may feed it to the Phantom Friend. If you do, archive the resource and gain +1 evasion token. So I'm definitely going to have her looking to go around and, the bug patch or the acanthus plants, and the first one she gets, she's going to feed to her Phantom Friend here. Now, of course, if she's deaf or becomes deaf during the showdown, this no longer works. She also is a Sword Master, and she is using the Perfect Slayer, which is a sword. Sword Master gains +1 accuracy, +1 strength, and +1 speed when attacking with a sword. However, Perfect Slayer is slow, so the +1 speed won't affect her, but I do keep the strength and accuracy token right here on this to remind me that that she has that +1 accuracy and +1 strength. Also, by being a Sword Master, her and everyone else are sword specialists. When attacking with a sword after drawing hit locations, make a wound attempt and then select the hit location to resolve with that result once per attack. That can be very useful when trying to, miss particular reactions or try to hit a critical on a specific wound. All right, so we've got the Leather Cuirass, 3 armor, Leather Skirt, 3 armor, Perfect Slayer, 3 speed, 6 plus to hit, 14 strength. 14 strength. So this guy is going to be huge in taking the butcher down because he is at 15 toughness. 15 toughness. Slow means the speed cannot be affected by traits such as sword mastery. Basically, unless I can get rid of slow somehow, which I don't have any way of doing that, the speed will always be 3 for the Perfect Slayer. Sharp, meaning that every time I wound him, every time I hit him, then I roll a D10 to increase the strength by that amount. And I mean, it's already at a 14, so against the butcher won't be necessary since I'll already be rolling wounds on anything other than a 1, but it could potentially become necessary at some point against stronger opponents, which is pretty crazy to say because this guy is about as badass as they come. Devastating 2. So Devastating 2 is huge. Devastating means if it was just devastating, then every time I wounded him, I would do 1 additional wound. Devastating 2 means every time I wound him, I do 2 additional wounds automatically. So basically getting 3 for the price of 1, which will really help me run through his AI deck. And irreplaceable means that if Ventress dies, the Perfect Slayer goes away, which, by the way, is an incredibly expensive weapon and can only be built if you have the Perfect Crucible. So if anybody's watching this who played with me, who started this campaign back at Mace, the Mace convention in Charlotte, they were with me, or they actually were the ones who found the perfect Crucible, and so that has allowed me to create the Perfect Slayer. Leather Mask, 3 armor to the head, and then when you depart, you gain +2 insanity. Round Leather Shield, not going to worry about this. I'm not going to attack with the Round Leather Shield unless for some reason I lose the Perfect Slayer somehow. However, you could theoretically attack with it. It also adds 1 to all hit locations, and it does have block 1, meaning that I could spend my act at the, I could spend my act on her turn to then block 1 incoming hit during the monster's next turn. And theoretically, I could actually surge when she becomes the target and use block as well, which probably is the better way of using block. Draw to Katniss, when you depart, gain +2 survival. Also, when you suffer severe injury, this is going to be hugely important against this guy. Ignore it and archive this card instead. Leather bracers, 3 armor to the hands or arms. When you depart, gain +2 survival. Leather boots, 3 armor to the legs. Since I have these 2 green affinities attached to it, at the end of your act, you may move 1 space. So I need to really try to remember that. I forget that a lot. And then Monster Grease, gain +1 evasion. And then there are 3 other green affinities, so another evasion as well. Also, I use these to help me remember. You can see I keep that underneath Ventress. And then have one over here. Helps me remember which is which. I have a tendency, the deeper I go into the game, the more survivors I have, the more often I forget which gear goes to which survivor. So that's why that's there. All right, next up, we'll look at this guy right here, which is Luke Nightkiller. This is my Twilight Sword wielder. The Twilight Sword has been with my settlement since Mace as well up in Charlotte. And I've managed to pass it down from, I think he's my 3rd Twilight Knight at this point. So, real quick, let's see his base stats. He's got 11 survival right now, 9 insanity, which insanity is important because I believe it is sentient, meaning you have to be insane to use it. So hopefully he doesn't lose that during the fight. 6 armor to the head, 5 to the arms, 5 to the body, 6 to the waist, 5 to the legs. Oh, by the way, in case anybody's keeping track at home, you might be thinking, well, hey, you got 1 extra armor every time you're talking about these people. And that's because I have Shrine, and during the last settlement phase, used Shrine, rolled a 4, and so everybody got 1 extra armor to all hit locations. Okay, so Luke Nightkiller. Let's see. Oh, by the way, I forgot to show you. With Ventress, she just had the full armor set for leather, so that gave her 1 to all hit locations, and she ignores bash. All right, so now we've got Luke over here. Let's see. So his fighting arts, he has tough, which we already talked about. He has Trailblazer, which is only important during hunting, so we're not even going to talk about that now. And then Double Dash. Double Dash means during the act, once per round, you may spend an act to gain movement instead. And I forgot these stats. He has 5 movement, 2 accuracy, 2 strength, 2 evasion, including 1 coming from his gear here, and then 0 luck, 0 speed. All right, and so we have the Screaming Horns, 3 armor to the head. Use an act to scream. Non-deaf insane survivors gain +1 movement until the end of the round. All other survivors gain +1 insanity. Draw to Katniss, which we already talked about. Screaming Bracers. 2 armor to the arms. On arrival, if possible, add an Acanthus plant terrain card to the showdown, which gives you 2 Acanthus plants. When you activate terrain, you may add 2 to the roll result. All right, so that's where 2 of my Acanthus plants came from. And then Screaming Leg Warmers. On arrival, your feet hurt, gain +3 insanity. Monster Grease, talked about that already. He only gets the 1 evasion. We only have only 1 green affinity here, so he doesn't get the extra evasion there. He need 2 more green affinities to get that. Here we've got the Twilight Sword. All right, so it starts out 1 speed, this star here, which means accuracy is 9 minus the Twilight Sword proficiency level, and then 9 strength, right? Okay, now it's also slow, meaning it can't go above 1. The speed cannot change. It's cursed, meaning that the person who has it cannot put it down unless, in the case of Twilight Sword, he becomes this Twilight Sword master, and then he passes it on to somebody else and he leaves the settlement. Cumbersome, meaning he has to use his movement and his act to use it. Sentient, meaning he has to have at least 3 insanity, because 3 insanity means you are insane and you have to be insane to use a sentient weapon. And irreplaceable, meaning if he dies, the Twilight Sword goes away. Now, he also has 6 proficiency currently with it. So the 6 proficiency automatically means actually now is 3+ instead of 9. So you can see here the sentient sword improves as it's used, gain the effect as proficiency rank increases. So at rank 2, I began ignoring. I'll just put this down. I think it'll focus better. At rank 2, I began ignoring cumbersome. So cumbersome no longer matters. He can move and then use it. At rank 4, when attacking with the Twilight Sword, ignore slow and gain +2 speed. So I'm gonna keep these on there to help me remember that. But that means it's now a 3-speed weapon. And then at rank 6, which he currently is at, Twilight Sword gains Deadly, which means Deadly means that a critical roll is now on a 9 or a 10 instead of just a 10 for wounding. Now, it doesn't matter much against the Butcher. The Butcher, I think, only has one spot that has a critical wound on it. But regardless, that is going on for the Twilight Sword. So then with the rest of these, real quick, we've got Screaming Skirt, 3 armor to the waist. Thick protective fur protects your parts. Add +1 to severe waist injury roll results. Screaming Coat, Slam, spend movement to full move forward in a straight line. If you move 4+ spaces and stop adjacent to a monster, it suffers knockback 1 and -1 toughness until the end of the round. And then Bandages, remove up to 2 bleeding tokens from yourself or an adjacent survivor. I hated giving that to him because I don't want him to be doing a whole lot of support, but it just worked out that he was the only one that really had a spot for bandages after everything else I needed to put on my survivors. So, bleeding tokens are going to be hugely important to deal with. The Butcher does cause a lot of bleeding. Only fight that I know of where the bleeding tokens happen more often, I think, is against the Manhunter, maybe. And even then, it might be kind of pretty close. They might be about equal in the amount of bleeding tokens they throw out. And then, of course, he does have the entire Screaming Armor set of... the entire Screaming Armor set. Add 2 to all hit locations, and then Skewer. After you slam, spend an act, so after you slam, which is this down here, then spend an act to move 1 space and activate a melee weapon with +2 strength. If you wound with a spear, which he doesn't have a spear, so that doesn't matter. All right, but slam and skewer work hand in hand. All right, so this guy is, he doesn't have a name. He forgot his name because of some sort of event that happened way back early in this campaign. And I just named him Lantern Sword Erroneous. So he gained, Erroneous is his last name. He gained that last name after he forgot his main name. And then Lantern Sword is not his name. I just use that because for up until he retired, he was the guy that carried the Lantern Sword. Now he retired, but then because of a settlement event that occurred in the last settlement phase, he has decided to come out of retirement for one last fight, and so he was required to go on this fight based on that event. So he's going to be going up to help me take on the Butcher. All right, so he's got 9 armor across the board, -1 accuracy, 5 strength, 2 evasion, and that -1 accuracy is a result of blind. He has the blind severe injury just once. There's only 1 eye, but unfortunately, that's all it takes to deactivate Timeless Eye, which normally would make my perfect hits happen on 9 or 10, which was awesome because I've been able to kind of mold his fighting arts around Timeless Eye because he has Crazed, which on a perfect hit gains +1 insanity, and Mighty Strike on a perfect hit gain +2 strength until the end of the attack. So unfortunately, those now only work on the 10s. I did have it so that it worked on 9 and 10 for a while. Let's see. He's also, a stalwart, so he can ignore being knocked down by brain trauma, which would be good against the Butcher. Even though, let's see, he's at 14 survival and 18 insanity. So, I mean, he's got a lot of brain armor there. What else? He does have leprosy. This is kind of cool. Reduce all damage suffered by 1 to a minimum of 1. Suffer -2 to severe injury rolls, though, so there's a trade-off there. And then Sour Death, when you are knocked down, you may encourage yourself. Okay, if you do, gain +1 strength token, all right. And he has a Swordmaster, but Swordmaster's not going to matter for him because he is not using a sword. And here's why. All right, so Drydacanthus, we know what that is. Crest Crown. We don't have the affinity ability set up for it, which would, when you depart, gain +1 insanity and +1 survival for every blue affinity you have. I don't have that set up. What I got this for was, if insane, you can use an axe to reshuffle the hit location deck. So remember, we have the cat eye circlet, which lets us look through the hit location deck. And then this would let us, if we see that a trap is coming up, the crest crown will allow us to reshuffle that deck and hopefully push the trap farther down. Now notice, I don't believe this. I'm not sure. I don't know if this lets me reshuffle the discard pile. I'll have to do some research before I actually start, just to see if there's any official word on that. I would think that I would only reshuffle the deck itself and not the discard pile back in the deck. So that's how I'm reading it right now, and unless I find something that says otherwise, that's how we'll play it. Okay, the Whistling Mace. On a perfect hit, reveal the next AI card. Place it on top or bottom of the AI deck. Also, it's unwieldy. If any attack roll results are 1, you hit yourself and suffer 1 damage. All right, it's got 3 speed, 6+ accuracy, 3 strength. So the strength could end up being a little bit of an issue here, but we do have increased accuracy. And really, the perfect hit thing was what I was kind of going for here with this, is it's going to hopefully let me kind of manipulate the AI deck a bit. Now, these +2 accuracy tokens here, that's because, let's see, where is it? Right down here. Lantern Gauntlets, we have the green affinity there, +2 accuracy with club weapons, and the Whistling Mace is a club weapon, all right? So, Lantern Mail, 5 armor to the waist. Lantern Cuirass, 5 armor to the chest. -2 movement, though, so that's going to be a bit of a problem, except, oh no, I forgot. Yeah, it is going to be a bit of a problem. But we'll deal with it. Let's see. These affinities are there, so we'll actually end up, when we depart, add 3 armor to all armor locations. Sorry, I lost my train of thought there. And I've already got that put in. That's part of where that 9 armor came from. All right, so we already covered the Lantern Gauntlets. Feather Shield, block 1. And with these affinities, which we do have 1 of each, you see blue, green, and oh, there's no red. I'm going to have to adjust that because I do want, that's the whole point of this, is to have that. So I'll move some stuff around. We'll get that figured out here in a second. But yeah, so when I get it figured out, that will allow me to reduce any suffered brain damage by 1 to a minimum of 1. So we'll adjust that. I'm actually kind of thinking I might need to adjust this gear grid a little bit, and if I do, I'll show you when I start the actual fight, because getting that +2 movement to counteract the -2 movement here would be very helpful. And so, I don't know, we'll see. We'll look at that in a second. And then earplugs here for the Lantern Helm. So 5 armor here, 5 armor here. This would make me deaf, but also give me -1 accuracy. Of course, I have the +2 accuracy here, which would bring me back up to 0 accuracy total. So we'll see. I'm going to adjust this a little bit, and I'll show you at the beginning of the fight how I've adjusted that. All right, and finally we have Katniss over here. 7 survival, only 2 insanity could be a problem. Also, the least armored of all my crew. 5 armor on the head, 4 on the arms, 4 on the body, 5 on the waist, 2 on the legs, 5 movement, 4 strength, 1 evasion. She does have crazed, and she also has transcended masochist. When you gain a bleeding token, gain +1 survival and +1 insanity. Ignore the effects of the agmophobia and apathetic disorders. All right, so she does not have a complete armor set. Oh, by the way, I forgot to show you this with with the guy that forgot his name. On arrival, he gains survival up to the survival limit, and then the extra weight is great leverage for the Lantern armor. All clubs gain sharp. So sharp, remember, is where when he hits, when he's attempting to wound, he'll roll a D10 and add that D10 to the strength of the weapon. So that's why I wasn't too concerned about the low strength of the Whistling Mace. Okay, so we've got basically we've got an entire set of armor of Screaming Antelope armor, except for the legs. That we don't have because During I believe a hunt event, the leg armor was lost, and I had to choose between during this past settlement phase. I had basically had to choose between completing the lantern armor or completing this armor again, and I went with completing the lantern armor. All right, so then we've got the Hunter's Whip or Hunter Whip. On a perfect hit, discard 1 mood in play. I can't remember if the Butcher has any moods. I think he does. I didn't want to go through the AI deck because I like kind of using my own experiences to inform what I'm going to do, and so I did not look through it. But I think he might have some moods, so that might become useful as we're playing. Then we've got the Cat Eye Circle here. Reveal the next 3 monster hit locations and put them back in any order. So again, using that in conjunction with the Crest Crown, I think will be really helpful. Gloom Coated Arrow. All right, so 5 speed, 6+ accuracy, 5 armor. Arrows can be used once per showdown, okay? So this right here is... obviously, it needs a bow. It's cumbersome, so I have to use movement and my act. And it's deadly, so 9 or 10 will crit. After attempting to wound each hit location, place it on top of the deck instead of on the discard pile. Use once per showdown. So basically, if I get 5 wounds or 5 hits and none of them are the trap, I would put all 5 of those back on top of the wound deck again, which, as long as this is the first thing I do in a round, that'd be helpful because the Butcher does reshuffle his hit location deck every round. But again, at the start of a round, that can be really helpful. Gloom Mindy. So I put this on here to kind of counteract not having the leg armor. When you depart, gain 1 armor to all hit locations. And then I don't have Crystal Skin or Crystal Sword Mold, so that doesn't help anything as far as that goes. All right, Arc Bow, 1 speed, 6+ accuracy, 9 strength, slow, so it has to use the 1. Range 6, cumbersome, and then I do have this set up so I get an additional range 2, so it's actually range 8, and the Screaming Armor Coat. All right, now let's take a look at the Butcher. All right, so we're going against level 3. So he's got 11 basic AI cards, 10 advanced AI cards, no legendary cards, 5 movement, 15 toughness, +2 speed, +2 damage. All right, and then he has this trait, Frenzied Berserker. Draw +2 AI cards every monster turn. So he's going to draw 3 total AI cards every turn. Then we've got Fast Target, okay? Fast Target. At the beginning of each monster turn, reshuffle the Butcher's hit location deck. Now this is interesting. This says reshuffle the Butcher's hit location deck, and then specifies reshuffle includes deck and discard pile. The Crest Crown uses the same... The Crest Crown uses the same phrasing, reshuffle hit location deck. So now that makes me think that, in fact, I do get to reshuffle the discard pile as well. So I will do a little bit of research, but if I can't find anything at all on it, I'm going to go with reading this the same way this is written. All right, and then we have Invincible. When the Butcher is wounded, roll 1d10. On a result of 8 plus, the wound fails. And then he's got Indomitable. Whenever the monster attacks or is attacked, it stands at the end of that attack. The monster will not stand if a survivor is attacking a minion or another monster. If a survivor attacks during another survivor's attack, the knockdown monster will stand at the end of the new attack. So basically, he never stays knocked down is the whole idea there. And then every survivor has this card. When you suffer brain damage, gain lunacy tokens equal to the damage suffered. When you have 3+ lunacy tokens, remove them all and suffer the frenzy brain trauma. Now, frenzy's not all bad, but it does make me stop using my fighting arts. Let's see. Frenzy down here. Gain 1d5 insanity, so that's not a bad thing. +1 speed token and +1 strength token. Too many speed tokens can become a bad thing. The strength token is not a bad thing. Ignore slow on melee weapons. So that's pretty good. You may not spend survival. That's not good. You may not use fighting arts, you may not use weapon specialization or weapon mastery. Can be gained multiple times, lasts until the end of the showdown. So there you go, that's the setup. I'm very, very excited for this fight. I've heard so much about the Butcher level 3. I really think I have a pretty good shot at him, but I've had a pretty good run this campaign. I have not lost a fight this entire campaign. I've had a couple of close calls. I think I've lost like 17 survivors throughout the course of this campaign, but I've been able to keep my numbers up. And I just hope that this is not my first TPK. This is a really critical point in the campaign. This is kind of a make or break point. Well, maybe not break, but this certainly could make me. If I manage to make it past the Butcher level 3 with these survivors intact, with these weapons intact, that's going to be huge. If he beats me, some of these weapons, the Twilight Sword, I won't be able to get. Well, I might be able to get that back. We have the Hooded Knight coming again here in the next year. I think next year the Hooded Knight comes back actually. So maybe I get the Twilight Sword back. The Perfect Slayer, I don't think I would have enough time to rebuild the resources necessary. It takes like 9 iron to build the Perfect Slayer and a bunch of leather. So I don't know that I'd be able to get that back in time for the next big fight that I would really want it for. I would certainly try, but anyway, only one way to find out what's going to happen. Be sure to check out the next video, and until next time, if you're bored online, bored offline.